Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into a topic I know you're all fired up about, the hurdles disabled students face when it comes to getting ready for college.
A topic close to a lot of our hearts, for sure.
It really is, and you sent in this thought-provoking document, episode 74.pdf. It doesn't pull any punches, especially about how the system works right now. You ready to unpack this?
Absolutely. This piece dives right in, especially when it challenges those ideas we have about who gets access to what in education.
No kidding. It doesn't waste any time. Right off the bat, it throws this stat at us. Less than 7% of students with disabilities are actually at schools that offer things like AP classes, IB programs, that college prep stuff. That's a tiny number.
Yeah.
What does the article say is the reason for this gap?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. The article calls out publications like the 74 million for putting the blame mostly on public schools. Like they're failing these students.
So it's not as simple as just saying public schools are the problem.
Not according to this piece. It's saying there's a much bigger issue going on, a system failure. And a big part of that is the role of those private testing companies. College Board, ACT, that whole world.
Yeah, that caught my eye too when I was reading through everything. Those are the big players, the ones who give those college readiness tests. But the critique isn't about the tests themselves, it's about accommodations, or really the lack of them. What's the connection there?
So the article goes deep on how these companies, they often don't follow through when it comes to honoring those individualized education programs, those IEPs, during these super important tests.
We're talking about things like extended time, different formats, right? Things these students are supposed to get.
Exactly. It's not just, oh, it'd be nice if. This is legal stuff. These accommodations are there to make things fair.
To level the playing field for everyone.
Precisely. And this article doesn't just say this happened once. They use this powerful story of a student who needed a scribe for the SATs. It was right there in their IEP, and they were denied. Situations like that, the article argues, send a terrible message. It's like telling these kids, we don't care about your needs.
That's got to be crushing, You're a student, you've worked hard, you have a plan in place, and then when it truly matters, the system lets you down. This feels like a huge point the article's making. It's about the real-life impact of these system-wide failures.
And it connects to this wider issue of how neoliberalism and privatization are affecting education. Episode 34.pdf seems to be pushing back against the idea, which you often see in places like the 74 million, that charter schools are the answer.
So they're saying there's another side to this story, another way of looking at things.
Exactly. They're saying this whole move toward making education a business, it hides the deeper problems, the ones we really need to deal with. Episode 34.pdf even points to a specific law. I won't get into the nitty-gritty right now, but it's a perfect example of how the push for privatization can happen without actually helping disabled students.
And this all ties back to those testing companies, right? They're the ones with so much power in this whole college readiness thing.
Right. They're calling the shots, designing the tests, giving the tests, and a lot of times they get to decide how those accommodations actually work or don't work, as the article's pointing out.
And at the end of the day, they're businesses, right? Their main goal is making money.
That's the core of the article's argument. It's saying these companies are basically encouraged to put profit ahead of treating students with disabilities fairly. Like it's cheaper for them to just keep things simple, even if it puts some students at a disadvantage.
So the very system that's judging these students might actually be holding them back.
That's the idea. And the article names names. It straight up says that both the College Board and ACT have been sued and criticized a ton for not giving disabled students the right testing accommodations. It even brings up this case where a student with dyslexia was denied extra time. Can you believe that?
That's awful. To think that a student's future could be decided not by what they know, but because of some logistical mess-up. Or worse, because someone put profits over fairness. Does the article offer any solutions? Like, how do we fix this?
It does, and this is where it gets really interesting. Episode 34.pds wants us to rethink this whole idea of college readiness. What does it even mean, and how are we measuring it?
Okay, I'm listening.
So instead of leaning so much on standardized tests, which the article says are already stacked against some groups, it suggests we need a more well-rounded approach.
So what would that look like? If we ditch the tests, how do we figure out who's ready?
Well, the article talks about looking at a wider range of skills and experiences, things like creativity, critical thinking, working together. Those aren't things you can easily test with multiple choice questions.
It's about seeing more than just grades on a piece of paper. It's about seeing potential, those unique talents each student brings.
Exactly. And it says we need more transparency, more accountability in the whole education system, both public and private. We need to move past this us versus them thinking and start talking about how to build a system that actually works for all students.
I like that. It's about realizing this is complicated. There are no easy answers. So, did the article give any concrete ideas for how we could create this better system, one that's fair for everyone?
Yeah, one thing it pushes for is more focus on individualized learning, those support systems within schools. It talks about really putting our money and effort into those IEPs, making sure they're not just paperwork, but actual plans that guide each student.
So, giving teachers the tools and support they need to really help each student individually, and recognizing that sometimes that one-on-one attention can be life-changing.
Absolutely. And bigger picture. It's about changing our mindset. Stop seeing accommodations as special treatment and start seeing them as what they are, tools to make things equal.
Leveling the playing field. That's powerful.
Yeah.
This is really making me think, what else jumped out at you from the article?
And it goes deeper than just changing the rules. It's about changing how we think about disability in education in the first place.
Changing the whole story we tell ourselves about it?
Exactly. The article really hammers this home. We got to ditch this idea that disability is a bad thing, a deficit. It's about seeing the unique strengths, the different perspectives that disabled students bring.
So instead of saying, here's what they can't do, it's about saying, here's what they can do.
Right. And not just saying it, believing it. The article says we need to blow up this whole idea of what success even means in education.
Instead of this one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about celebrating those differences, letting each student find the path that works for them, that helps them reach their own goals.
It makes you think, who gets to decide what college readiness even means, and whose needs do those definitions really serve?
Million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the article tackles it head on. It says these definitions, they're often just made up by colleges and those standardized tests, and they don't always reflect the real world, the skills you need to succeed.
So it's not just about getting into college, it's about what happens once you're there. Can you actually make it? Can you thrive?
That's the key.
Yeah.
And it's about realizing that there's no one right way to succeed. Maybe a four-year college isn't for everyone. Maybe there's a different path that makes more sense.
This has been eye-opening, really. And it makes you realize we all have a part to play in making education fairer.
Couldn't agree more. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, a student, heck, even if you just vote, you have a voice. Use it. Push for change.
Exactly. And for everyone listening, if this got you thinking, keep digging. Don't just accept things as they are. Question those assumptions we have about education and disability.
Challenge the system. Make some noise.
Because at the end of the day, when we make education work for everyone, we all win. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep asking those tough questions and keep those conversations going.